Hello students of class 12C. We are going to start 7th chapter of Indian Economic Development book, Employment, Growth, Informalization and Other Issues. So let's start with this chapter. As we can see here, the word employment in the beginning tells us that we are going to study in this chapter about different type of employment conditions in our country. So let's start from the introduction part here. I'm going to read from NCERT book here. People do a variety of work. Some work on farms, in factories, banks, shops, and many other workplaces. So if we are going to see, people do a variety of work. Like for example, we have seen that people are going to banks, they are going to shops, they are going to factories to work there. So there are different workplaces here. And work at home includes not only traditional work like weaving. So work at home does not means only traditional type of work which included weaving or any type of handicraft work. Variety of handicraft work were done in the traditional society of India. But not only these type of works, but it also includes some modern jobs like that of programming work in information technology industry. And earlier factory work meant working in factories located in cities, and now technology has enabled people to produce those factory based goods at home in villages. So we can see here that if we see the traditional society of India, whenever any workplace was to be located, it was to be located in some factories which were in the cities. People used to go there and used to work in those factories. But in the modernized period, we can see that those type of goods which could be produced in the factories can also be produced at home. Okay, so those type of goods can be even weaving cloth at home in the village areas. Okay, now the question is, why do people work? Why do they work? So very simple answer is that they work because they want to earn their living. This is a simple thing. But if we want to talk about those type of people who inherit property, who are the owners of some inherited property. Okay, so what about them? They are already having money. So why do these people work? So question is this only, that people do not why do people work does not mean that they want to earn their living, but another answer for this is that not only to earn their living, most of the people who are inheriting some property and they already have money from their ancestors, it is being passed to the new generation. So that money is going to be not only used to just enjoy life, but these people also work who are having some inherited property. Why are they working? Because another reason to work is to find out that what is their worth in the society. उनकी क्या योग्यता है? For finding out this, what is their worth in the society, they used to work. And being employed in work gives us a sense of self-worth and enables us to relate ourselves meaningfully with others. So people are working just to find out their self-worth and also to find out or relate themselves with other people who are found to be working in the society. So therefore also people are working for self-worth. Now whenever these type of work is done, then what happens? It leads to development of the country, because work means any type of economic activity. So here we are only going to take the economic activities in which whenever the work is done, some type of income is earned or generated. So therefore, all these work, directly speaking, earning a living, used to build up our national income of the country. We have a sense of accomplished when work to meet the requirements of those who are dependent on us. So people are not only working for their for fulfilling their own wishes, but they are also working just because most of the other family members are dependent on that particular person, and that is why they are working. So people are not working for themselves, but also they are working for the other family members who are dependent on that working person. Having recognized the importance of work, Mahatma Gandhi insisted upon education and training through a variety of work, including craft. So Mahatma Gandhi also have put more stress on work, because if work is to be done essentially to earn living, then the people should be trained in that work, or maybe a good education should be given to these people so that they can do their work properly and can earn higher incomes. Studying about working people gives us insight into the quality and nature of employment in our country. So whenever we are studying about working people, then whenever we study about them, we come to know about the quality and nature of the employment in our country. What is the quality of employment? What is the nature of employment? And plus, what is the contribution of different sectors which are providing work to the people? Or in which sector highest proportion of the people are engaged? Which sector is responsible to give more employment to the people? So whenever we are going to study about employment, then we used to know about all these things. Plus, it also helps us to address many social issues. Whenever we are studying about employment, we also come to know about some different social issues, like that of exploitation of marginalized sections of the society, child labor, etc. We come to know about these things also. So this is what is the introduction part of your NCERT book tells us about. And after this, let's move on to our next topic, workers and employment. So what is employment and who is a worker? Like for example, when a farmer is working on a field, then he or she is producing food grains and raw materials for industries, because most of the agro-based industries are dependent on agriculture for getting raw material. So these farmers may be producing food grains or raw material for industries. Like cotton becomes cotton textile in textile mills and in power looms. Lorries transport goods from one place to another. So all this work is going on from agriculture to industrial sector and then to service sector. So all these work, if we add up the money value of all these goods and services produced, then what we get is gross domestic product. In short form, it is called as GDP. The total money value of all final goods and services produced in the primary, secondary and tertiary sectors during a particular year. When we also consider what we pay for our imports and get from our exports, we find that there is a net earning for the country. So if we talk about two things here, export and import. In exports, we used to receive, and in imports we used to pay. So if we are going to find out the difference between these two, export and imports, we are going to get our net earnings of the country. And this earning of the country may be in positive or maybe in negative. We will get positive earnings if our exports are more than imports, because in exports we used to receive the money and in imports we have to pay for it. On the other hand, we can get this net earning in negative also when imports are more than exports. And sometimes this net earning can also be equal to zero. When are we going to get net earnings of the country to be equal to zero? When exports and imports are equal or same. Like for example, whenever we are going to calculate our net earnings, then it will be equal to export minus imports. So if exports is equal to 100 and import is also equal to 100, then 100 minus 100 will be equal to 0. So our net earnings of the country will be equal to 0. When we add these earnings from foreign transactions, when we add up these earnings with the foreign transactions, what we get is gross national product for that year, that is GNP. So those activities which contribute to the GNP are called economic activities. So whatever activities are included in our GNP, gross national product, will be called as economic activities. All those who are engaged in economic activities in whatever capacity, high or low, are workers. So our definition for workers was that whoever is engaged in all these type of economic activities which makes up our GNP, gross national product, they all are all economic activities in which money is earned. And whoever is temporarily or permanently engaged in these type of activities will be called as a worker. And even if those people who are temporarily abstained from work, or maybe they are not doing work for some time, maybe due to injury, maybe due to some type of festival occasion, or maybe due to some bad weather condition, or some type of illness, disability, social or religious functions for some time, if these people are not working, still they will be called as workers. We generally think of only those who are paid by an employer. So if we are going to talk about a worker, what we say is that whoever is working under any particular employer will be called as a worker. But it is not so. Even the self-employed people who are employing other workers will be called as a worker. Economically, even the self-employed people are included in the workers category. The nature of employment in India is multifaceted. That is, some of the people in our country get work throughout the year. Some others get employment for only few months in a year. Many workers do not get fair wages for their work. While estimating the number of workers, all those who are engaged in economic activities are included as employed. So, whatever type of work is done by these type of workers, they are all called to be as engaged in economic activities, which generates money. And whenever we are going to estimate the number of workers, then all these workers engaged in the economic activities will be called as employed. You might be interested in knowing the number of people actively engaged in various economic activities. So, we also want to know that how many number of people are engaged in economic activities in India. So, we can talk about this also. During 2011 to 12, there is a data given to us that India has about 473 million strong workforce. Means the number of people who are engaged in the economic activities. Since majority of our people reside in the rural areas, if we see that highest number of people in our country are employed in the rural areas only. They live in the rural areas. Or we can say that the rural area population is higher than the urban area population. Since majority of our people reside in rural areas, the proportion of workforce residing there is also higher. So that means in the rural areas, the proportion of workforce is higher because population is more there. The rural workers constitute about 3/4 of this 473 million people. Means if we talk about the total number of workforce, 473 million in our country, then out of this 473 million people, the rural area workers are about 3/4 of this 473 million people. And this means 473, that means near about more than 70% of the population are those workers who are living in the rural areas. Out of this 473 million people, men, out of the total workforce, men are more than women. The workers which are male are more in number as compared to females. 70% of the workers are men, you can see here, and rest of them are women. Women workers account for 1/3 of the rural workforce. Okay, so in the women workers, if we find out, then there are about 1/3 of the rural workforce accounts for women workers. And in the urban areas, if we'll see, they are just 1/5 of the workforce. Women carry out works like, mostly we can see that the women are carrying out with what type of work, like cooking, fetching water, or doing household work, all these type of work. They are engaged in some type of work. But because they are not paid for that work, household work, or fetching water from 5 kilometers away from their house, or doing some type of other work, cooking, okay, their work is not included in the economic activity because they are not paid for that work. So most of the economists used to say that this type of work done by the women also should be included in the workforce. But it is not done so, because in economic activities only those work are being taken which are paid, and therefore the number of women workers are lesser out of the total workforce.